So we only just talked about the fact that we had a session in the House of Lords where you had four former ambassadors from the UK to the US talk about how worried they are with sharing information with America. It is a very big concern and something that we should be looking at, primarily because even though they did not say her name, they were expressly referring to Tulsi Gabbard, who has a history of parroting Kremlin propaganda, pro-Assad propaganda. She actually went to visit Syria under the Assad regime to support it back in the day. There has been a lot of talk about how vulnerable she might actually be or be influenced by Russian talking points, by Russian agents, and by Russian assets. And when you have someone like that who is in that position, who then might say, oh, well, we've got this intelligence from, the British, the French, Germans, etc., then they might just pass it on to the Russians. That's worrying, and we should be worried about that. And I am very glad to say, we are not the only country currently worrying about that. Because guess what? Other countries are now very concerned about that possibility as well, with Norwegian officials fearing this. And not just Norwegian officials, but other officials, as we'll get into in the moment as well. This obviously takes place and just after, of course, the US has decided to stop sharing intelligence with Ukraine. So on into this, because this is this is definitely something that should be looked at and should be a great concern to us, especially under this administration. So before I do get into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button down below. There are links to my Patreon page, the one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. This comes from Euractiv, with the title of Norwegian officials fear that the US may share its intel with Russia. So there are some in Norway who are worried their intelligence is going to get shared with Russia. And bear in mind, because you've got officials like Tulsi Gabbard, that's worrying. You have every reason to fear that. So, Norwegian government officials and intelligence officials fear now for the future of its close intelligence partnership with the US, as they worry the Trump administration might be listening more to Putin than their allies. Intelligence sources have told Dagens Næringsliv, I can't even say that now, whatever, Norwegian word. After, of course, Trump's very catastrophic White House spat with Zelensky, and of course, recent moves to now sideline Europe, officials in the Norwegian intelligence service and the Norwegian government are now seriously discussing whether their most important ally could shift sides and now become a threat, DN writes. I think it very, very much is something we have to consider. Sometimes called NATO's listening outpost in the north, Norway's now close decades-long intelligence sharing relationship with the US has now fallen under new scrutiny. DN sources now say that there is already a fear that the US is now consciously or unconsciously may have shared sensitive information obtained by Norway with Russia. Sources also say that their American colleagues fear for their jobs and the consequences of the Trump's agenda. The NIS, however, has now publicly dismissed the DN report, because of course they are. The intelligence service now strongly distanced itself from the allegations in the article published in the DN. Niels Andres Stevenson said, head of the NIS, said on Thursday morning. These allegations have no basis in reality at all. Norway has good and solid intelligence cooperation with the US, he continued. I think there is every reason to worry. I think there is every reason to worry that might happen. But if they are coming out and they are, dismissing it, which, to be fair, of course they would dismiss it, but they have come out quite strongly and said that. So, we're, like I say, it is worrying, and it is worrying to see because they do point out some very worrying scenarios. So the NIS's internal assessments have flagged several hazards of this cooperation with US intelligence agencies, according to DN's reporting. They say in one scenario, the US could decide to share information with Russia to win them over from China as part of a bid to split the no-limits Russian-Chinese partnership. In another, Trump now replaces key personnel with incompetent actors that might result in them sharing Norway's very sensitive intel by accident. That is absolutely one case that could happen. I wouldn't put that past the boys at Doge to accidentally do that. The US could then also lose interest in Norway's information, removing now a powerful bargaining chip on the Norwegian side. The assessment also flags new US Director National Intelligence, as we said, Tulsi Gabbard's lack of experience and support for Russian President Vladimir Putin's talking points on Ukraine. DN sources have also said that Russia has not reciprocated the US order to pause offensive cyber operations and is now continuing its own offensive activity as before. So, there you go. Worrying indeed. Very worrying indeed, the fact that that is being reported. And I think the Norwegians are very, very right to worry about that. Those scenarios, once thought impossible under this administration, it could happen. It's suddenly gone for that'll never happen. The US would never do something like that, right? Right? Under Trump and the fact that you've got Tulsi Gabbard in there running the show for US intelligence, suddenly those scenarios become all far too realistic. All far, far, far too realistic for happening. And it is incredibly worrying. So I am really, really glad that we are not the only country worrying now about sharing intelligence with America because of the fact, well, we saw what Trump did, taking, official documents away and, showing them. Then there's the whole story about the time we had the ISIS operative that we shared with Trump. So much stuff could have happened behind the scenes that we might never even find out during this time. So much stuff. And we could never come to light. Never come to light. But I do think, we have every reason to worry about this. And you are now seeing European intelligence agencies, because I can guarantee it's not just us, it's not just the Norwegians. I think every European intelligence agency is now very carefully considering what intelligence it shares with America. So let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.